Kidnapping for ransom and extortion is fast becoming a lucrative business in South Africa. This is according to a new report by a local specialist insurer that notes that kidnappers are increasingly targeting mid to lower income individuals. It cites statistics released in a 2022 report by the Global Initiative Against Transnational Organised Crime, noting that the number of kidnappings in South Africa has grown alarmingly over the past year, with an average of more than 1,000 kidnappings per month, or 143 kidnappings per month during the first half of 2022. To understand more about this growing trend, we are now joined by Pierre Gildenhuys, Head of Forensic Investigations at D&K Management Consultants. A very good evening to you, Pierre. Thank you so much for speaking to us. If I could just get you to please confirm the actual figure again. I do apologize. There seems to be a spelling error there, or rather typo error. So I wasn't sure of the actual figure. So can you please just give us what the actual figures are and how much it's grown exponentially over what period of time?
Good evening to you and to everybody that's watching. So yeah, if we look at the figures from 2021 to 2022, now this is just in the first half of 2022. The statistics from 2021, on average on the first half, if we calculate over the same period, was about 700 kidnappings per month. Now, if we compare those statistics to 2021 and 2022, that's grown almost to double in the first half of the year. We are now probably way over that, but we are talking about over 1,100 kidnappings per month on average. That works about to 38 kidnappings on a daily basis. This is how big the problem has become in the last year. And going forward into 2023, I don't foresee it slowing down anytime soon.
But what leads to this? What is the source of this kidnappings for ransom phenomenon? And do we know who is behind it?
Well, you said it yourself. It's a very lucrative business. It's an easy way to make money. People love their loved ones the most, hopefully over other things, and it's easy. The response time of the SAPS and the measures they put in place are weak. If you go and report a normal theft, you know the probability of the SAPS following up on that 100% is very slim to none. Now, if you take the same response for theft cases, hijackings, burglaries, and you transfer it to kidnappings, the kidnappers know that the response from the SAPS is going to be weak. The family is going to have to settle the matter privately and confidentially because they don't want to necessarily have their name out in the open, expose the family to people knowing that they are wealthy, etc. So it's usually kept on the down low, and this is why it's become so easy to do this crime.
So as I mentioned, that it's now targeting individuals who are not necessarily wealthy, who are middle to low income. So I'm just wondering how the targets are chosen. You say it's become a lucrative business, but I'd imagine that it's not necessarily random either.
No, it's not necessarily random. However, there's a big misconception with a lot of demographics in South Africa. For example, the Chinese, recently a lot of Muslim communities and a lot of Indian communities are being targeted. Now, from studies and misconceptions out there, they have sort of thought to themselves that these people are your typical people that own cash and carry stores, they own big cell phone shops, so they should carry around a lot of cash. So that's how the majority of them are chosen. And then, of course, you get families that are chosen and families that are targeted out of pure opportunistic ways, meaning that you see an opportunity, you take it, or you might become aware of that somebody has a large amount of cash with them every day, and they set these hijackings up because they know there is some sort of wealth within the family or wealth within the person, that he carries cash around with him, or that is generally known to be a good businessman, and that's how they mostly choose their targets.
And this practice, is it learned from somewhere, and was it sort of implanted here based on, I don't know, its efficacy, or how, going back to the word lucrative, it is?
Well, I think when the Moti brothers were abducted, I think the crime, as in hijackings, got a lot of exposure. And especially because of the amounts that were mentioned with the Moti brothers. I think that is also a great cause of the rise that we see in these type of cases, that, people are realizing that, okay, people are willing to pay good money to get your loved ones back. And with the knowledge and everybody in South Africa knowing how poor the justice system is and how the courts are set up to prove you are guilty, and how we all know that sometimes fails, that becomes the lucrative part of it. It's not necessarily to say it's a new thing. It's been happening for a very long time. In fact, I think the statistics that we are shown are actually quite skewed. The statistics that we are shown are cases that are reported. You must keep in mind that a lot of the cases go unannounced to the media. It goes unreported to the police because they are scared. They don't want their family name to be out there. They don't want the embarrassment and to deal with the rest of the trauma of the media. So I also believe that being part of the lucrative business idea, a lot of these cases do not go public. They do not get reported. People are scared. And also the obvious mistrust in the SAPS accounts to a great deal for that.
What is the data showing in terms of, I'm just wondering if one should, or find themselves in such a situation, how to respond to it, and do you listen to the warning of not involving police? Because I'm just actually thinking of one of the business people who was abducted, and even though the family, I think, either had paid or was going to pay, he was killed. So how reliable are the people that you are negotiating with?
Look, that is something that you'll have to judge case by case. A lot of the requests, and I must say we are inundated with requests, especially for background purposes, to get a background on an individual. When companies become aware that the colleagues and the staff members are likely to be behind it, when coming back to your question, it has to be judged case by case. We often hear and often see for ourselves bodies turning up in these type of cases. People are sometimes held for months on end until they get payment. I think a lot of it has to do with the reasoning and the motive behind the kidnapping as well, and to what degree it's on a personal level rather than making a quick buck as a crime in general.
Mm-hmm. And just for those who are watching and may be interested in knowing how best to safeguard themselves, is there a modus operandi? You spoke about hijackings earlier on, that is more often than not used in such cases. So what should you be on the lookout for?
Well, you should know what's going on within your company first. I think that's the best place to start, since a lot of the victims of kidnappings are business owners. You need to understand the feeling amongst your staff. You need to understand that if you're in the business of carrying cash and you show it all the time, people are going to know about it. If you drive fancy cars and if you drive fancy, fancy vehicles, you wear expensive clothes, people are going to start noticing that. Now, I'm not saying when you drive a fancy car that you're going to be kidnapped, but this is where the proactive side comes into play. That if you realize that you're a high-profile person or a high-profile individual in the business industry, especially when you own shops that deal a lot with cash, it's better to become proactive, to make sure that you maybe purchase a vehicle that is bulletproof, hire a close protection officer to escort you when you go to the bank, when you go out late at night, to have an additional protection with you when you know that you're going to be in a vulnerable stage, whatever you're doing throughout the day, that you at least know there's some security to prevent those things from happening.
Well, thank you so much for your time and insights. Really appreciate it. From D&K Consultants, Management Consultants there. That is Pierre Gildenhuys. So, right.